Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something we literally do all the time, talking about what someone else said, right? But think about it. Do you quote them word for word, or do you just give the gist? It might seem like a small choice, but trust me, getting this right can completely change the game.
All right, here's how we're going to break this all down. First up, we'll get crystal clear on quoting versus reporting. Then, we'll walk through the basic transformation from one to the other. After that, we'll get into the real nitty-gritty, mastering that tricky tense shift and updating words for time and place. And yeah, there are times you can totally break the rules, so we'll cover that too. Finally, we'll wrap up with why any of this actually matters in the real world.
So picture this. You're telling your friend about a conversation you just had. What do? Do you go full-on actor and repeat it exactly, word for word, maybe even doing their voice? Or do you just, give the highlights? This choice right here is what we're digging into. Are you the live recording or the news anchor? Both are powerful, but for different reasons.
And here we see the two styles perfectly laid out. On one hand, you've got direct speech. Think of it like a photograph. It's a perfect snapshot capturing the speaker's exact words, complete with quotation marks. Then you have indirect speech, which is more like a sketch. It reports the core idea, the substance of what was said, without being locked into the exact phrasing.
All right, section 1, let's talk about how we actually make the switch. How do you go from a direct quote to reporting it? Well, it's a little more involved than just dropping the quotation marks. There's a little bit of magic involved.
Okay, let's look at a super simple example. Direct speech. Ram said, "Hari is a poor boy." We've got his exact words in quotes. Now look what happens when we switch to indirect speech. Ram said that Hari was a poor boy. See that? The quotation marks are gone, we've popped in the word that, and, this is the big one, the verb is has become was. Did you catch that change?
So it really comes down to 3 key steps. Step 1, ditch the quotation marks. Easy enough. Step 2, add that little connector word, usually that. And step 3, and this is the one you really got to watch, you have to change the verb tense. That's the secret sauce. Okay, now for the main event, mastering that tense shift. I love this part. I call it the time travel rule. And it makes so much sense when you think about it. You're reporting something that was said in the past, right? So your verbs have to go back in time too. They have to match the timeline.
And this table, this is basically your cheat sheet for verb time travel. Check out the pattern here. Present tense takes one step back to past tense. Present continuous steps back to past continuous. And look at this. Both present perfect and even regular past tense take a big leap back to past perfect. It's always this consistent one-step back move.
Let's put that into practice with a really simple sentence. Direct. Ravi said, "I write a letter." Write is present tense. When we report it, it becomes, Ravi said that he wrote a letter. Boom. Write takes that one step back and becomes wrote. Simple, right? It just keeps everything lined up chronologically.
And guess what? This whole time travel thing isn't just for regular verbs. It works for our modal verbs too, those little helper words. So, will takes a step back to become would. Can becomes could. May shifts to might. It's the exact same logic, which is kind of nice, right? It's consistent.
Check this out. He said, "I will go to London tomorrow." When he said it, will pointed to his future, but now we're reporting it later. From our perspective, his promise was made in the past, so will becomes would. He said that he would go to London the next day. See how that perfectly adjusts the timeline? It's all about perspective. Okay, so we've got the verbs down, but they're not the only things that need a little update. We also have to tweak words that are tied to a specific time and place. And why? Well, because our time and place are different from when the original words were spoken. The context has shifted.
Here's another super handy chart for you. If they said today, you report it as that day. If they said tomorrow, it becomes the next day. Now becomes then. Here becomes there. It's all just about updating the GPS coordinates, so to speak, to match your current point of view.
And here's a perfect example of that in action. Rupam says, "I must go now." Her now was in that moment. But if you tell your friend about it an hour later, her now is in the past, right? So you say, Rupam said that she must go then. It seems like such a tiny change, but it's absolutely crucial for making sense. All right, so we've spent all this time learning the rules, especially that big time travel rule. So now, let's talk about when to break them. Because yep, there are definitely situations where you don't want to shift the tense back.
These are the exceptions, and they're just as important to know. So when do you throw the time travel rulebook out the window? Well, when you're dealing with things that are always true. Universal truths, timeless facts. If something was true then and it's still true now, the verb doesn't need to go anywhere.
We're talking about things like universal truths. Honesty is the best policy. Or scientific facts. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Even habitual facts and major historical events. Things that are just set in stone. For these, the verb stays put.
And this is the classic example everyone uses, for good reason. Your teacher said, the earth is round. When you report that, you're not going to say, the teacher said the earth was round, right? I mean, unless something terrible happened. The earth is still round, so the verb is stays is. The fact hasn't changed, so the verb doesn't either.
Okay, we've waded through all the grammar rules, the shifts, the exceptions, the whole shebang. But what's the big deal? Why should you care? Well, this is where it all comes together. This is about being a better communicator, a better storyteller.
It really comes down to choosing the right tool for the job. You use a direct quote when you need that punch, that authenticity, that this is exactly what they said power. But you use indirect speech when you want to summarize, to integrate their thoughts smoothly into your own narrative. Mastering both? That's what gives you control and clarity, whether you're a journalist, telling a story to a friend, or just trying to avoid a misunderstanding.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. When we choose to report what someone else said, when we use indirect speech, are we just sharing a fact? Or are we actually sharing our interpretation of that fact? Because every time you summarize, you're making choices. You decide what's important, what to highlight, what to leave in the background. It's a subtle power, but it's one we all use every single day to shape the stories we tell.